Warning! This episode contains graphic language, that asshole Sloan, depictions of self-harm, truly rehabilitative justice, and as always, teen angst! Also, there'll be spoilers for chapter 5 through 8 of Brisingr, book 3 of the Inherent Cycle by Christopher Paolini. Listen at your own risk.
Is this a podcast, or is this just fantasy? We're just two nerds and we love our fantasy. So join us if you want to nerd out. Time to start the podcast and see. Anyway, here's the show.
Hello, readers. I'm Dane Patterson, the host who is Dane Patterson and far more. I am Dane the Drain, Shorty, Danald. I am the man who talks too much. My bulldog is Ghost, she who is known as Dozer, and the annoying pup. We were taught by many schools, which were public, and the Google, and the Reddit.
Oh, wow. That's a lot.
Yeah, welcome to the show, everybody.
I'm Jacqui Lanier, and is this a podcast or is this just fantasy? The podcast where the knives are as long as our aimless tangents, Dane.
If you'd like to support us on Patreon, there is a link in the show notes. And if you can't or just don't want to, we totally understand and just ask that you please rate us on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts.
Yes, and as always, visit us at isthisjustfantasypod.com, the website we made to archive all of our episodes and sell our sweet, sweet merch. Yeah. And in the event you've never seen our website, A, it's very cool.
Super
what are you
cool.
doing? And B, the episodes posted there are actually the video versions that we record.
Yes.
If you only listen to us with your ears.
Listen to us with your eyes.
It's a feast for the eyes. So yeah, if you need to know what my face looks like when I do my voice for baby Kevin, that would be a good place to learn that information.
That's for sure. It's a treat. If
Yes.
you're missing out.
Allegedly. But before we get to our chapter summaries, to talk arguably the most badass fight scene in this entire series thus
Hands
far.
down.
Yes.
Hands down.
I want to take a second to recap what happened in our kickoff of Brisingr last episode.
Let's do it.
Okay. We open Aragon and Roran doing their recon to plan the strike that will finally get them their revenge against the killers of Father Uncle Garrow and Magic Daddy Brom. Two dads these guys are responsible for murdering. And as always, justice for Quimby's niblets.
I've been screaming about this revenge for about half a year, so I was very happy with where we started.
You think?
Yeah,
I don't know.
good.
You seem subdued.
I'm just saying,
pretty
double
subtle,
the dads, double the revenge. That's all I'm saying.
I really wasn't picking that up from you last.
Has it been? I've been low key.
Yeah,
I've been playing it low key.
Famously chill
Famously chill guy. That's me.
So unfortunately, on their recon mission, Aragon and Roran have to witness, which means that we had to witness, World's Worst Religion, TM, on a leisurely afternoon hump and wriggle from the city of Drosleona to the rocks outside of Elk.
I wish there was a club that's called and Wriggle.
I bet that there is, and I don't want to know any more about it.
It's in Miami somewhere.
Oh, God. Anyway, you know what the cult did, Dane. I know what the cult did.
Yes.
Dane taught everybody at length about what the cult did. So I'll just leave that here for the time being. After Aragon scans Nightmare Mountain for Katrina and the Razak's consciousnesses, they decide to wait to attack the next morning to have the best shot at both search and rescue. And that night around the campfire, Aragon, Roran, and Saphira get into some deep shit.
Also, they get super naked so we can see their muscles and their scars. Chris knew what he was doing.
Yes, this book definitely has that tone to it. Their group therapy vibe is really enviable, though. Aragon reflects on his conflicted feelings about Murtagh being enslaved, but also relishing in the murder of our dwarf daddies. So, Daddy, no solid read on Murtagh here.
Yeah.
Saphira must have taken up a psychology major at Ellesmere University because she's able to comfort both Aragon and Roran as they discuss their own experiences with killing, acknowledging the toll that it takes on them. It dawns on Aragon that Roran needs to know the basics of stump time mind shielding before he just is in a magical war.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. We pretty quickly see like his obsessive single-mindedness, though, Roran's, that it has some perks because he's super good at shielding his mind. And before they turn in on Revenge Eve, they'd be remiss if they didn't also talk about Eragon's unrequited love for Arya and his challenges as an immortal half-breed on Allegasian Twitter.
I'm just saying, Kevin was supposed to stop with the Arya stuff like 2 books ago, yeah?
It would have been better that way. Yes. If, he didn't kidnap a lady he'd been dreaming about.
Yeah, but she's so nice, so,
But alas, it's Go Team for
Yes.
SEAL Team Brother Cousin. They start off being pretty alert for signs of traps, and when you know it, Saphira unveils an illusion concealing the entrance to the mountain cave. As they enter Helgrind, the creep factor is at an all-time high. This enormous cavern is shadowy, smells puke, rotting meat. The Vibes playlist they post on the Sonos is just whispered muttering. It is not his dinner party. I'm RSVPing yes for it. It sucks.
it sounds gross.
Yes, and when one of the leather blocka pops out and attacks Saphira, it's on. The Rozak join the fray, and Eragon and Roran struggle to defend against the strength and speed of the boogie birds, but Eragon manages to blind one leather blocka and fight off the Rozak with a freaking staff while Saphira kills the blinded monster, and Roran genuinely holds his own in this fight. Like, he is just
does well.
crushing it by not dying.
Yeah.
And when Saphira returns after killing the second leather blocka in aerial combat, the clock starts ticking on this rescue mission because she was seen by some locals.
Yeah.
So the brother cousins head into the belly of Helgrind towards Nacelle, and Roran one and done murks the one of the Rozak along the way. They finally free their damsel, and Eragon sneaks away to confront the mystery he sensed in the fortress. And it's fucking slow.
Of course it is.
Just add one more thing to Eragon's to-do list.
I mean, it smelled like rotting meat, didn't it? There's got to be a butcher in there somewhere.
And a shitty one at that. But Eragon's super conflicted about how to handle Sloane. He ultimately decides just to put the butcher into a magically induced coma to buy some more time. He will deal with that later. Classic Eragon.
Hope this isn't a pattern
Yes.
he's going to start getting into.
Dude, they successfully free Katrina, and after re-meeting his soon-to-be sister-in-law, like we needed more... like the familial relationships here to get more convoluted, Eragon casually invades her mind to make sure she isn't going to be a sleeper cell.
Yeah.
And as they make their way back to Saphira, Eragon lies to Roran, telling him that the Rozak killed Sloane. With everyone reunited, the worst wounds patched up, Eragon drops the bomb that he wants to stay behind to hunt down the remaining Rozak and destroy all the eggs.
Just a quick genocide, and then we'll get where we need to go.
Sometimes you just need to do a fast genocide, Dane. Despite everyone's well-founded and straight-up vicious on Saphira's part objections, Eragon convinces Saphira to leave without him. And we wrapped up last episode with Saphira giving Eragon 1 week to make it back to the Varden before she comes looking. Are you ready to get into this fight scene, Dane?
I am I really want everyone to know. I am so happy. We are so close to full-on revenge.
Full revenge,
It is
Dane.
moments from now.
Book 1, first few chapters.
What, chapter 7?
They took our father uncle too soon.
I mean, Garrow, he was such a charming man.
I am excited, though. I was pretty jealous when we broke down all the chapters for the episodes and you got to do the summary for this one. But
it
it feels right for you.
I feel like I needed this. I need this.
Yeah, you really, really do.
I was happy with it.
Yeah, it's exciting to see. I think in this section of the book, we're really seeing Eragon just like hold his own and like be the badass we all want him to be.
I mean, kind of finally.
Yeah.
I feel like this book is one of those things where I'm like, okay, we're finally getting here. I like
Come
this.
on, bud.
Yeah. It's been a lot of books of you being, well, I don't know. Like, you know what I mean?
I mean, he's a child, yes.
I mean, that is true.
Justifiably, well, I guess I need to learn some more stuff. And
I
I'm just out here doing my best. But now he's like, let's fucking go.
Yes. I love conflicted heroes, but it feels like Eragon's mostly just like, oh, do I go left or right? I mean, sometimes, you know what I mean? I love the guy, but come on.
Yeah, I think it's just he's classic coming of age teen trying
Yes.
to figure it out in the big world.
Yeah. And we got
Being a
Roran.
wizard.
Roran helped with that.
Yeah, that's
So,
true.
but
Totally true.
are
Are
you ready?
you ready?
Let's do it.
Okay.
All right. Chapter 5, Ryder and Rozak. It's time.
Ah!
Revenge is at hand. Okay. And it feels fucking amazing. First of all, in an epic scene that is undeniably cool. And let's be real, Kevin can sometimes be uncool. Eragon becomes a hero of old.
Yes.
He sits cross-legged with his staff across his lap, eyes closed, and repeatedly calls out in the ancient language to the remaining Rozak. I'm
Yes.
going to quote this
Yes.
because it sounds so badass. He says, "Come, O thou eater of men's flesh."
Wait, Dane. I'm sure you mean. Come, O thou eater of men's flesh, let us end this fight of ours.
No, this is cool. He goes, come, O thou eater of men's flesh. Let us end this fight of ours. You are hurt, and I am weary. Your companions are dead, and I am alone. We are a fit match. I promise that I not use gramarye against you, nor hurt or trap you with spells I have already cast. Over and over again. It's fucking cool.
Just gets lost in the sauce, repeating his mantra. It's really fucking cool.
When he finally opens his eyes, the Razak is standing in front of him, and you can tell that Paolini is having fun at this
hell
moment.
Yeah.
It's clear that he's loving this. This has to evoke emotions in Paolini too. After all, these are the first villains he really writes in his first two books.
Yeah, that's true.
And they're far and away the creepiest. They're most of some there's gotta be some emotional attachment to the author, I think. Maybe he respects them. I don't know. Anyway, we get two very cryptic bits of information from the Razak. First, he tells Eragon that good old gal, quote, has more hearts than. And as a kid, I reread that 5 times and was like, what does this mean? Also, I was so antsy about revenge that I was like, who cares? Move on to the murdering. Come on.
Well, especially because the tension has ratcheted up so high, and now they're having this conversation. You're like, oh my God, what's going to happen?
Come on, when does it end?
Yes.
Yeah, and when he learned that the Razak that died in the last chapter was Razak's hatch mate.
Okay.
And that she was a woman.
Oh,
Yeah.
Lady Razak.
Lady future.
Hashtag women in STEM? Violence?
Women in eats?
Women in cults?
Women in cannibalism? Anyway, good thing Eragon is not Randall Thor, am I right? He'd be making a list. And we also learn that Razak is the last of her kind and wants her race to be remembered as fear and terror.
Ooh.
Yeah, if Eragon promises to do this, the Razak will tell Eragon a secret. The secret of Galatorix.
Spill the tea, girl.
Yeah, so she's like, nah, basically. The secret is that Galatorix has on the true name, which again...
Just the true name.
What? The true name of what?
Yes, this Razak is a classic shit poster on Facebook that's just having a tough day today, just waiting for somebody to be like, what do you mean?
What is going on? Yes. And even Eragon is like, what the fuck is that? The Razak gets super fucking mad and smashes Eragon, and what is becoming a pattern in his life. Remember, Angela was telling Eragon that, quote, your fate will be to leave this land forever, where you will end up, I know not, but you never again stand in Algasia. This is inescapable. It will come to pass, and if you try to avoid it, and then we get this quote. So I'm going to end the quote there.
Yeah.
And then we get this quote from the Razak in the book. Curse you, writer. I curse you. May you find no roost, nor den, nor peace of mind in this land of yours. May you leave Algasia and never return.
Wild.
Well, fuck. I mean, poor,
not great.
Yeah, poor Eragon. So far, his prophecies have come true, and this curse, although not magical, because, I mean, it's from the Razak, seems legit.
Yes.
I mean, it's not magical, but I don't know.
No, it
Anyway.
definitely seems like a curse. I feel like it's similar in the first book, Brom his blessing to Eragon, and it wasn't a magical blessing the way Eragon did to Elva, but
Yeah, that worked out great.
yes, went well. So it wasn't music with magic, but it had a weight to it. This feels like that to me.
This does feel like that.
But the opposite.
But back to fucking revenge.
God.
The Razak shoots at Eragon with a bow, and then they ritual fight to the death.
Dude.
If you haven't read this chapter, what are you doing here? Stop it.
Press pause.
Push pause.
Yeah.
Read it. This.
Come back.
Eragon kills the Razak in no time. He dodges the attack, spins, and stabs the pointy part of his staff into the Razak's head.
Dude.
It's fucking gnarly.
So-
It's here. Revenge. And on that note, we did it. Revenge party. Here we go.
Oh my God.
Put on the hats. We got revenge.
It's
finally.
party time.
We got poppers here. We're doing
Ready?
it. Let's go.
Holy shit.
Yeah. Revenge.
You did it, Eragon. We're so proud of you.
He finally got it. Wow, that was explosive. If you're listening and you can't hear, you can't see, obviously, we just shot poppers in the studio.
We just did a deeply visual gag.
Yeah, we have hats on right now. It's a revenge party.
Yes.
It's only fair. We waited so long.
I know.
For this
I'm
revenge.
so happy for you, Dane. This is one of those things that, I love to read it. I fucking love this revenge plot. I loved this fight scene. I love this chapter. After all of it, on this reread specifically, after having done this with you for so long, I'm like, I'm so happy for Dane.
And that's what it's about. It's about me.
Yes.
It's always been about me. So I'm glad you. Well, I'm glad we did it. This was fantastic. Whew. Okay. So now that
Back to business.
Fast, yeah. Aragorn,
Nothing to see here.
that's build up, right? Aragorn goes through the Razak caves. He finds
So we're just
everything
looting
else
and
is
booting
downhill from here, everybody.
Loot and rally.
I'm just kidding. Yeah, he finds and destroys Seether oil.
Yes.
When he gets to Sloane and he heads for the exit, he sees people are coming on horseback. He needs to hurry.
Yes.
Aragorn uses magic to get himself down onto a ledge, and it seems like rough going.
Yes.
He almost falls 5,000 feet down the mountain. He does it in sections, going in a twisting manner and using Sloane's energy along with his own to kind of levitate down slowly.
Yeah, I kind of picture it like that. What's that video game? Fall Guy?
Fall Guy?
That's
Kevin,
a thing.
you know? Is it Fall Guy?
Wow.
Wow.
Oh, I'm a gamer. Just kidding. Don't ask me any more questions.
We're going to be coming back to this. If you want to know any more gaming questions, please write in to ask Jacqui about
Please don't do that. My nephew plays that game.
Okay.
But that's what I picture visually is just him like flopping down to like ledge after ledge.
Yes. Oh, I know what you're talking about now. It's like they're like
See?
limp.
Yes.
Yeah.
Fall
Okay.
Guy.
Okay. He does it in sections going on a twisting manner, and he's getting more and more tired. So when he reaches the bottom, he can barely stand and cannot think straight. He knows he's dying.
Oh.
He's going to give in to death when a bumblebee lands near him, and he gets the will to live. And I'm not big on bees, but whatever. The beauty of nature is the biggest pool of all, it seems
Yes.
to Aragorn. Using the energy move he learned from Ormus, Aragorn pulls energy from a plant and stands up, and he keeps doing this until he's full of energy. It dawns on him that he literally almost dies and doomed the world because he was being dumb. Oh,
Well,
Kevin. You
remember
gotta
back
cough.
when we thought he was making some progress on this? Like, his biggest strength of all was knowing his magical
He
limit
says
so
this-
precisely. That was last book, and now
Yeah.
I'm like, oh nope, having a little backslide here.
And this chapter ends as he thinks of vengeance. A mighty deed it was,
Oh my
Aragorn.
God.
Fuck yeah, it's bittersweet.
Yes, that's what he's thinking.
Yeah.
I do like that he has a little nuance about this.
Yeah, his revenge gave him purpose and is why he left his home originally.
Yeah.
He mourns the loss of the vengeance, and me too, dog. Me too.
Oh my God.
Aragorn reflects that this isn't a good thing.
Yeah.
And fucking being healthy, dog. Stop it. We've got revenge right now. Take a chill on healthiness. Like, just enjoy the moment.
I'm proud of him. He's like, damn, I should not feel like I've lost something because I gained something.
It is very healthy.
Yes, we're proud of him.
And that's it. That's all I got.
Well, that takes us to chapter 6, To Walk the Land Alone,
Ooh.
dramatically titled.
Yes.
But this chapter opens with Aragorn alone. I don't know if you could have guessed that.
Nice.
He's on the road at dusk, and he's very alert to his dangerous position. He's prepared to vanquish any foe, which comes in clutch when he hears a quote, loud liquid rumble and jumps up with his staff. He's like, oh shit, it's on. Except, oh, that's apparently just the unfamiliar sound of his stomach gurgling because he's hungry. I guess something's never really changed. The kid who had no idea he was crying also doesn't know what his tum-tum sounds like when he's hungry.
Maybe, okay, I'm stretching it out here, but maybe in his new hybrid.
A generous read
It's
of
a generous
this.
read. Maybe in his hybrid form, it just sounds different. Maybe it sounds like liquid. Maybe before it sounded like a gurgle, but now it's the gentle pings of a pond.
I hate both of those descriptions so much. I'm going to need to move along.
Okay.
I wish. No, I can't engage in that. So sorry. That's fucking gross. Aragorn, learn what your tum-tum sounds like when
Yeah.
you need a little snack, a little pick-me-up.
Yeah, seriously.
Maybe he's hypoglycemic. But out in the apparently desolate waste of central Alagasia, Aragorn doesn't have many choices for a good dinner here, and he's faced with the classic dilemma any vegan or vegetarian knows well. Do you stick to your principles when it isn't convenient? And not exactly a fair framing of what's going on for Aragorn here,
No.
because he'll essentially starve if he doesn't hunt an animal or drain its life force to keep walking. But he spends a long time trying to rationalize having himself a good little barbecue on his camping trip.
Doesn't he stand there like 8 times?
Yeah,
Like,
he
do I
takes
do it?
He's like, you could do it, bud. But eventually he decides he'll eat meat if it's really necessary, and he grills up a little lizard and turf dinner. He is revolted at the first bite, but by the end, he apparently likes it so much he's contemplating contemplating indulging in a little special occasion meet from time to time. And it's funny that he's like taking such a quick turn, but I do like his thought process here, the way it's described. He is thinking, quote, moderation is a wiser policy than zealotry. And I'm like, okay, yeah.
Yeah, I remember when I was a pescatarian. This is back to Aragon. I hope moderation is easier for you.
than it was for you.
I'm no longer a pescatarian.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I don't know. You're a famously chill guy, though. You're not like an all or nothing kind of personality in any way whatsoever.
Nope.
But with that little baby moral dilemma handled, Aragon moves on to the biggie here. What the fuck is he going to do with Sloane?
Seriously.
He refuses to play executioner, but that leaves him with the responsibility of coming up with a fitting punishment for a known murderer and betrayer.
And now, haters. I can already hear you about to go like, well, actually, and I'll be getting to all of this at the bottom of the show. We will be talking about Sloane and Aragon today, so don't you worry.
Well, in line with the plot, he wakes the butcher finally from his magically induced coma. So all this has been going on, by the way, and Sloane's just passed the fuck out and Aragon carrying him. So he finally wakes Sloane from his magically coma and feeds him before settling in for a little light interrogation. No big deal. And it doesn't exactly start how you think. Sloane has questions for Aragon first.
Yes.
About whether Katrina was freed and where she is. So obviously we know this is this guy's like big deal. So he's like, where's my daughter?
Well,
where is she?
Where is she?
Yes.
I have a very specific set of skills.
Yes, exactly. A little sub Liam Neeson, I would say,
Is that
in
our
skill
casting
set.
for Sloane now? Liam Neeson?
No, Dane.
Okay.
No,
All right,
no.
that's fair.
Under zero circumstances.
I just feel like Liam Neeson is a like wide range. He's a range. He could play a villain pretty good.
he obviously could play a villain,
course
but
he
nobody
could.
should have to play Sloane.
That's true.
I think
Sloane is a role that you're given, and you're like, I have nothing else. I have to do this.
Yes, yeah.
that's
So not Liam. Liam seems nice.
Too good for this.
Yes.
Okay.
Sloane fucking sucks, dude. So when Aragon says Katrina's safe and is with Roran and the Razak are dead, Sloane realizes who Aragon is. He's kind of like putting pieces together. And Sloane also realizes it must be true that Aragon's a writer. So this is like stuff he heard the Razak kind of saying he was in prison while they're torturing him. And Aragon's confirmation of this is pretty badass, I have to say.
That's so cool.
Your play on that was almost as badass at the top of the show.
For
pretty close.
For pretty close, I'd
But our little bean farmer is really giving character energy for once in this section. I am going to quote it because I do like it. He says, I am Aragon and far more. I am Arshatlam and Shade Slayer and Fire Sword. Oh, sorry. I forgot. He says, my dragon is Saphira, she who is also known as Bjargular and Flame Tongue. We were Tom, who was a rider before us, and by the dwarves and by the elves. We have fought the Urgles and a Shade and Murtag, who is Morzan's son. We serve the Varden and the peoples of Alagasia, and I have brought you here, Sloane Alden's son, to pass judgment upon you for murdering Bird and for betraying Carvajal to the Empire.
I mean, fuck yeah, get him. Like, even in that voice, fucking Fire Sword, dude. Whatever, that's badass.
Yeah, it was cool. I did love it.
He's really cool in the voice, but definitely
that's my Aragon voice. If we're not consistent, Dane, what's it all been
I
about?
thought he was a teenage. I thought he was like, well, murdering Bird, betraying Carvajal to the
I just don't have the skill set to impersonate like the rapidly puberty voice of a middle teen. Yeah, no, I can't do it. So he'll always be Aragon to me. Also, he's part elf now. That would make him like fair folk, maybe soft spoken.
That's true. He probably will never have the gravelly voice.
That's Murtag.
That's Murtag.
Anyway, I am proud of Aragon. He's really in his boss bitch era now.
He's doing great. I mean, so far I'm like, this is great. Keep it up.
Yes, crush it, queen.
Yes,
so
queen.
Yes. So when Sloane tries to say Aragon must be lying now, so Sloane's like realized what's up.
Yeah.
But immediately when Aragon tries to be like a badass, Sloane's like, well, calm down. It's not going to be. It could. Not all of that could be true. Yeah. And Aragon gets like high key aggressive, and he takes over Sloane forces him to accept the truth of who he is, what's happened. And as soon as Sloane does that, he turns right back into the asshole we all know and hate. Yeah. He gives a tacit admission of the murder that he did.
Oh, great.
Delivers a super sick burn, calling Aragon son of none, and basically dares him to do his worst as punishment. He doesn't give a fuck what happens to him as long as Katrina is safe, which, like, is he admitting he knows Katrina is safe with Roran?
I think believes that, if nothing else, right?
Maybe this whole kerfuffle that made refugees out of a whole ass town was about nothing. If Katrina's just fine with roaring, Sloan?
I don't know.
That guy sucks.
He sucks.
Really made a mountain out of a molehill.
Well,
made hundreds of refugees out of a molehill.
I can hear a bunch of people getting upset right now, and we're gonna get to it.
That guy sucks. But then something truly wild happens. As Eragon is really contemplating why Sloan is such an incorrigible douchebag, he mulls over the core tenets of the Butcher's personality to the degree that 3 ancient words just occur to Eragon to describe Sloan. Eragon says them out loud, and it turns out they're the Butcher's true name, ancient language, true name. So of all people, Eragon could have a soul deep understanding of. It has to be this fucking guy. It's a pretty shitty hand to have to play for Eragon. You sometimes just cannot catch a break.
It's so funny too. What do you think the words were? Dick, jerk, douchebag,
narcissist.
Yeah,
yeah, it gotta be. I would love to know. Christopher Paolini, answer some questions. Yes. I'd love to know what the ancient language word for douchebag is.
Is that on the
list? True name of douchebag?
The true name of douchebag.
But with this new development, Sloan's true name, Eragon feels like he can finally figure out what he's gonna do. And like you'd expect for a decision that a person's life literally depends on, a man's life in the balance, Eragon spends a good long time thinking through all the possible ramifications of his sentence and what it means for him and morality. Just fucking kidding. He takes 10 minutes to think about it, scries over to Queen Islanzati's magical Zoom link to run it by her real quick, and then gets the ball rolling. Just gets to doing.
He's already picking up the rise and grind culture from Raza.
Yes. And before we get to the punishment, I just want a quick aside. The check-in with Islanzati was crazy. The elves are gathering for war. She's just murdered a bunch of humans who came on Gal's orders into Do Weldenbarden to cut trees. She's literally washing blood off of her hands. She pops up on camera. Yep. Not something I ever dared to do in any corporate job. I definitely kept the blood washing off my hands before the conference call.
Hey Jim, how you doing?
But she gives a super badass speech. She says, to our enemies, it will seem as if even the elements have turned against them. We are an elder race, and our skill and knowledge far exceed that of mortal men. Let Galbatorix and his allies beware, for we elves are about to forsake our forest, and we shall return in triumph or never again.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, damn, the bloodlust bitch.
Queen Island crazy, am I right?
I mean, in a fun way.
Yeah.
But after she chastises Eragon for going on this revenge mission at all, because very dangerous, and then electing to stay behind with Sloan on his own, she's like, my guy, what the fuck?
Yeah.
She grudgingly does agree to his plan for Sloan's sentence, and Eragon goes to tell the Butcher his fate.
Yes.
So he curses Sloan to never be able to see or speak to Katrina again, making him swear in the ancient language to obey. So he's taken a serious oath, been compelled to by his true name. Yeah. He'll be compelled to find his way to Elismira and live among the elves with animals and bringing him food along the way, like some twisted, fucked up Snow White. Sloan unleashes an absolute tirade of inventive profanity upon hearing this plan. He's like, I don't know, you yellow-bellied, really, really insane. And Eragon is actually super impressed by the old-timey insults, but he's resolute. He's
this is very teenage. He's like, nice, dude.
It's like, pretty good words there. I'm going to pocket some of those for later.
Some of those. It reminds me, it's very Elaine-esque in Wheel of Time.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
But Eragon is resolute to do the punishment anyway. The impressive curses were not enough to.
You know what, man? Actually, you're good. You're cool.
Now that you've called me, I think some implied bestiality was in there.
Yeah.
He's like, now that you've said that, I think you could just go.
Kind of Garo.
Do not malign.
I'm sorry.
Our original
I shouldn't have said
father
it.
uncle's
I knew
good
it as soon
name.
as it was out of my mouth.
Anyway, when Eragon speaks Sloan's true name out loud to start the process of securing the oaths and casting the spells, the Butcher has just a light mentee bee at hearing his innermost essence, having that revealed to him.
Yep.
I I get that.
Makes sense.
Aragon thinks this might be a spirit quest he doesn't want to embark on. Like seeing this reaction from Sloane, he's like, maybe I don't want to know my true name. And honestly, like same. I think I
don't want
that's
it.
super understandable. The level of infection I don't need. Like just leave my therapist and I alone.
Yeah.
We're not going to get there.
Would you want your therapist to know your true name? Would be helpful, probably.
Yeah, I think so. But I would not ever want him to tell me.
Yeah. I'd be like, well, you know, you don't need to. You get it.
Yes. But as Sloane is literally just raving after being cursed, he says something that seemed really weird to me. Again, I'm going to quote it. Sloane's just like muttering to himself, and he says, "Only a piece of rope. I didn't mean to. Ismira, no, please. I'm like, do you think Sloane killed his wife, Dave? Like, this seems super sketchy.
I don't know, maybe it was in love. Paulini's been really saucy lately. Maybe it's like death by, I don't know, autoerotic.
No,
you know what I mean? Like
No.
This young adult novel has it all.
No.
It is wild. No?
Yeah, it was the weirdest thing.
It's weird. That's why I
though.
said that. No? Okay.
I don't think your level of weird is weirder than it was in the text.
Now I regret it.
Punched it up a bit.
Yeah, it's a little much.
As you are wont to
But remember
do.
revenge?
I love revenge. But yeah, I do think Sloane killed his wife.
I think
I'm a
so.
truther about that now.
I don't know. She did. I don't know how.
We already thought before that he drove her to unalive herself, but now I think he actively killed her and confessed it to Aragon. But naturally, Aragon doesn't bat an eye or spare a thought for a potential second murder confession.
Of course he doesn't.
And he takes a little rest after irrevocably altering a man's fate.
Yep.
When he wakes from his not sleep, Sloane has left for Dueldenvarden, so the butcher's gone, and the chapter ends as Aragon continues on his way, all by himself, to return to the Varden.
Good little boy's on his own adventure now.
Yeah.
That takes us to chapter 7, Trial of the Long Knives.
Yes.
It's a Nasawada chapter. God, I love this section.
It's so good.
I get that once a day.
You
Jax.
did. You got the bangers. Bangers only this episode.
Yeah.
But I got Sloane's tirade of insults, so
That's fair.
everybody wins.
We all win. It's equal. Faded into Nasawada's Red Pavilion, and outside are 6 guards that change every 6 hours. And it turns out she has a total of 34 guards on duty.
Not that anyone's counting.
Yeah, with 10 of those in reserve to relieve anyone who needs a night
Very
off.
fixated on the number of these guards.
I think I am. Yeah, we talked about this even when I was writing. I was like, no, I'm pretty sure we talked about it for a long time. Anyway, every group of 6. So, like in every group of 6, there's a pair of Urgles, a pair of dwarfs, and a pair of humans.
That's pretty cool. Just a regular Benetton ad of murder.
Yes. Each one is a master of their blade, and many are also very skilled magic users who have all sworn their undying pledge of allegiance to Nasawada in the ancient language.
I pledge allegiance
to
Queen
Nasawada.
President.
They are called the Nighthawks, a play on the Urgle name for Nasawada, Lady Nightstalker.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. But Nasawada ain't no fool, and behind her chair throne thing is a curtain with a little room for Elva.
A little extra layer of witch baby protection.
Yeah, so Elva can keep her powers on protecting Nasawada, and this government rocks its like state-funded daycare. Like the state-funded daycare here, you get the Queen President just watching
your baby.
Yeah.
I mean, no child labor laws, but
think not what we
the
could
state-funded daycare is pretty impressive.
Yeah, think not what the Varden could do for you, but what your baby can do for the Varden.
Yes, just what every parent wants when they join.
Yeah, a Rebel Alliance terrorist organization.
Terrorist organization. I don't know. Ajahad didn't raise no bitch. This seems like a pretty good plan for
a good
Nasawada,
plan.
to be honest.
Yeah, we come in right in the middle of the action, mid-conversation with Nasawada talking privately to Fatawar, a tribesman from one of the wandering tribes, the same group King Daddy was originally from.
Yes.
He is a larger man, and like Nasawada and Ajahad, he's also dark-skinned. He wields a 4-foot-tall scepter made of solid gold, is covered in jewelry of various golds, a breastplate of gold, and a giant gold crown 2.5 feet tall. Wasn't the other headdress 3 feet tall in the last section?
Yeah, this is just a book of...
Big head, big hats.
Big hats.
Is
fun
this like
hats.
a secret Christopher Paolini thing? He just likes
Loves
big hats.
a big hat? I don't know.
Well, these big hats we're wearing.
I was just about to say, I don't know anything about people who love hats too much.
So all the men surrounding Fatawar are also similarly garbed, and apparently all this gold tells the various deeds and status of their lives, as well as the skill level of their tribe's craftsmen.
Yes.
We also learned that, quote, as neither nomads as either nomads or city dwellers. The dark-skinned peoples of Alagasia had long been renowned for the quality of their jewelry, which at its best rivaled that of the dwarves. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
They're also in a heated debate. Fedawar is saying that Nasawada is essentially forsaking the ways of her people by not giving the wandering tribes prominence in the Varden. Okay. By his reckoning, the tribe should rank higher in her allegiances, and because Nasawada's father was in her tribe, and he is Nasawada's mother cousin. Yeah, I guess. Yes.
Mother's cousin.
Mother's cousin? No, it's mother cousin in this podcast. Nasawada.
Mother cousin has really unfortunate implications as far as family tree goes, but.
I'm going with it. Nasawada basically says, dude, if you had ever helped the Varden before, or if your men were the best people for the job, maybe, but right now, fuck off. Fedawar is not great. He says, a woman's pride is always without sense.
Love to hear that.
And later he says that they are the chosen ones and that she is full of poison.
Yeah, he's a tough look as a character, Fedawar.
He's not great.
Well, and it sucks because as a culture, we know so little about it. What we know, or what we've seen from Naswada and Ajahad, it all seems very interesting. I'm very curious about it. And then I'm like, finally, we get another tie to these people, and he sucks.
Yeah, he's a rough connection to this.
Yeah.
As they rehash the entire history of the relations between the Varden and the tribes and Ajahad, Nasawada is coming around to the idea that the trial of the Long Knife, something we've never heard about, is going to be happening. And she goes full badass and basically asks if they will help pay for the war or lend their craftsmen, with the predictable answer from Fedawar of no.
She's goading him.
Yeah, she negs him, saying that he can't even give her troops because the tribes people are already in her army. She basically calls Fedawar a greedy little asshole. And how much in this book how much I like Nasawada. It's so funny.
Not in this book yet, but yeah, she's fucking dope.
Yeah, and this leads Fedawar formally challenging her to the trial, and she knows she's going to have to do it because she needs the tribes to join and stay in the Varden. So it's on. She agrees.
Damn.
Whoever wins stays the leader of the Varden and gets to be warlord of the tribes. And if it's Fedawar, I guess he'll be leader of the Varden until her guards kill him, obviously.
Yeah.
And I mean, the Varden's not going to go for this.
No. That seems clear. But he's drunk on rage. I don't know. He's let's do it. I'll be in charge of the Varden. It's no one's going to let that happen.
How does he think this is going to work?
I
don't know. Anyway, first, of course, Nasawada has to get naked because dress. How you feel about this?
All the way naked.
How you feel about this?
It's bad.
Is this creepy or does it make sense?
No, totally creepy.
Yeah.
Creepy. Reading this time, I think it's another thing that I just fully glazed over when I read it when I was younger. And on this read, I was like, what do you mean she just has to take her dress off?
She has to do it, Jacqui.
She's in her shift or whatever.
Yeah, she's in a shift.
But it's that's naked for the time and place.
Yeah.
For her culture, that's what she's considered. But she's I couldn't ruin the sleeves of my dress. I was oh, sure. And there were no other reasonable alternatives.
Nope, dress is off.
Wild.
I mean, Fedawar had to take off his bagels and crown, so it's the same.
Not quite the same. Not quite the same. He unburdened himself of all of his gold.
Then King Orin, Jormungandr, Triana, and 2 men of another wandering tribe come in to bear witness.
Yeah.
This is also badass because it shows that Nasawada was just one step of Fedawar and rubs his nose in it.
Yeah. She had everybody on stage. She kind of knew when she took this meeting with him that this is probably where it's going. This asshole is going to try to challenge me for leadership. I'm not having it. So we're going to.
Yeah. Well, Orin and Jormungandr are classic dude bros about it. They're just not cool about it at all. I mean, fairly so. This does sound a little insane.
Yeah.
But then the men of the Wandering Tribe begin to play their drums. It must be intense there.
Yeah.
Then 2 long, curled knives come out, and it is on. So this is a game of fortitude. Who can cut their forearms the most by their own hand?
Yes.
The winner is the one who doesn't give up, and Nasawada rightly freaks because fucking Fedawar has 5 lines of scars
he's
already.
Done this before.
Yeah, he's done it before. Nasawada only has one hope. Elva predicted that she would win.
Oh, right. Which baby knows everything.
Which baby knows everything. So it begins with Fedawar cutting himself. Then they go back and forth. And after 5 cuts, Nasawada begins to get drowsy and learns that maybe the number of cuts, but who passes out to determine the winner.
Oh, damn.
It goes to 6. Then they switch the next arm and begin cutting. At 8 cuts, Nasawada cuts twice in a row.
Dude.
Like an absolute maniac.
I love this. I was like, yes, girl. Yes.
Yeah. meaning Fatawar would have to cut twice to win, and he taps out.
Yep.
He's like, I'm not going to do that. And to the contest, while she loses her mind a bit, like she just pisses out a little bit, the two tribesmen come to her and tell her that she cut herself more than anyone ever had.
Or she did. Dane, she's our queen president.
She's so dope. And they'll follow her along with the rest of the tribes. She goes foggy a bit again. Tria comes to heal her, and we learn that she has to like let the cuts heal naturally to win, like actually. And under a barrage of questions from her advisor, she reveals her reasoning for why she did it. She says the tribes alone were not worth the risk.
Okay.
But the story of this event should bind all of the Varden's troops to her, and they will have something to celebrate and take pride in. And this was worth the PR, I guess.
I mean, good PR is priceless.
I mean, absolutely.
Her
right.
marketing team is really
on top of it.
Yes.
Before the chapter ends, she insults King Orin in maybe the worst way possible, but by telling him, quote, "You are a king. You ought to understand that danger is the mantle a person assumes when he or she has the arrogance to decide the fate of other men." And he flees, replying that essentially that while she and King Daddy were hiding in the mountain with the Varden, he and his family for generations were actively rebelling against the Empire. So he's got a point.
I mean, I guess he's not technically wrong, but he is being a little bitch, and I will not be tolerating any degree of Ajahad slander on this podcast.
I mean, I'm just saying it's not smooth. That's what
it's definitely not. I did giggle a little bit. I was like, get him.
Yeah,
Tell him.
She was on one.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's what I got.
So that takes us to chapter 8, last one of this episode, Winged Tidings.
Winged Tidings.
Yes, we literally fade into this chapter with Niswada coming to after her light blood loss related breath blackout. Nothing to worry about here.
She's fine. She's fine.
Once she's awake, she gets right down to business, telling Jormungandr to keep Fatawar in charge of his tribe. She's like, whatever, that dude can stay in charge of his shit if he needs to be, as long as he swears fealty and like puts his wealth at the disposal of Varden. Yeah, that he's gonna fall in line. She sends her maid to fetch Angela, and with Niswada's two most stalwart companions gone, creepy cursed baby Elva finally comes out of her hiding place. When we see her, when she's like on screen, she's continued to grow at an alarming pace. Apparently she's like, she looks like a 6-year-old now.
So
and
weird.
I know. And evidently her curse from Aragon had taxed her so much during the battle in the Burning Plains. She just recently started talking again. So that was like a week and a half ago or a couple weeks ago now.
And no one wants this weirdo talking. Let's be real.
It was weirdly better when she wasn't talking, but it was sad and alarming. But she was so like in tune with the high level of suffering around her during that battle. She passed out.
It's really sad.
Yeah. Really, really sad. So
Aragon done messed up.
Yes. Apparently, though, Elva all of Niswada's pain during the trial of the Long Knives, and she's more impressed than anybody at how badass Queen President is.
Yeah, dude, she did it.
Yes, and then she drops the drum that she had actually lied to Niswada before the contest. Elva had foreseen Niswada losing, so our creepiest of babies took matters into her own baby hands.
Comforting.
telling Niswada what she needed to hear to win.
Yeah. That's
like the implications of this are insane to me. So Elva can predict the future, but is not like, I don't know, not bound in any way to like ensure that future happens or can like
changing fate.
Yes. Insane. So
wild.
Yes. By being able to predict this pain, she's like, I know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And she's altering it on a scale just because of proximity, because of where her circumstances. She's doing this on a scale large enough to influence kings and queens and decide the fates of nations, basically. She's a fucking baby. She's like 3 months old.
It's weird.
It's very weird.
It's very weird. It makes me weird. Elva does make me uncomfortable.
I think yes, for sure she makes me uncomfortable. I think that's really good writing, though. She is meant to be like, look at what can come of carelessness in this world. Yeah.
I can just push things weird.
Why? So with this revelation, Angela rolls in to stitch Niswada's wounds, stave off infection, and provide some comic relief. Classic Angela.
Yeah.
And people say women can't have it all, Dane. Angela's really doing it.
Yep.
But with everything all sewn up, we get the news that Saphira has been spotted returning. So Angela and Elva help Neswata get back in her dress to meet her returner.
I mean, we need to get Aragon looking at Queen President. He knows she's fire. But
You don't want her to get dressed?
No.
Oh my
He needs to
God.
see how hot she is. We need to get him off of Arya.
Well, that's true.
And
That's true.
she's in a shift. She's not like, we need.
Oh my God.
I'm just saying. It's just, where is
Hot take.
Aragon when he needs to be there?
That's true.
Yeah.
Dude, could you imagine if he had seen the Trial of the Long
No, he
Knives?
wouldn't have let her do it. He would have been like, no, for your honor. I will.
He's not Randall Thor. He might have.
He might have. He might have been like, I'm not doing that.
She would have been like, "Ho, sit down. I am your liege."
That's exactly right.
Yeah, I do love that about her. But to keep her badassery going as she's getting dressed, Neswata has Angela and Elva and her maid cut this, make her dress a sweet cutoff to show her bandages and get the rumor mill started as they go out
Nice.
to meet Saphira.
So she didn't need to take off
That's
the
what
dress.
I was just, I was like, yeah. So it seems like she did not need to have been naked. She could have just cut her sleeves off.
No, it seemed important to the plot of this story that she was naked.
You love to see it in a fantasy novel,
It
Dane.
happens more than you hope.
Yes,
Anyway.
more than anyone likes.
Yeah.
Well, no, some people like it. That's the problem.
I think that is the problem.
Yes. So, awaiting Saphira's descent, a crowd gathers around Neswata that represents all the disparate factions of the Varden. And Neswata has a quick minute to check out Arya and appreciate what a hottie she is.
Just hot off the heels of the dress.
Yeah, she's like,
okay.
damn, Arya is fucking crushing it. She's
Just
keeping
women
it-
supporting women, huh?
She's keeping it tight. She's 100, but doesn't look a day over 20. But Arya greets Neswata saying, even as much as she respected our Varden daddy Ajahad, she thinks after the trial of the Long Knives, Neswata has surpassed her dad now.
Proving that you can't, I mean, PR is PR.
Yes. But Elva interrupts the Girl Boss group chat to tell Neswata she can't sense Aragon with Saphira, but that Roran and Katrina are with her. So Neswata has Jormungandr clear the area before Saphira lands, knowing everyone will panic if they know the rider's missing.
Yeah.
But Oren, Nargarjvog, and the Dwarven emissary are allowed to stay. So just like that tight VIPs only,
Yeah.
velvet rope kind of deal.
Yeah, totally.
They paid for bottle service in the club on this hilltop.
Of Auric for sure paid for that. Is he there? No, he's not there.
No. But alas.
But he paid for it.
He's got an emissary there. We have to imagine that Auric has given him strict instructions.
He's for sure the richest guy there, right?
Auric?
Like the Dwarven money. He's got all that Dwarven money.
It's tough because
She just
the dwarves give Neswata a lot of wealth. They are handing a lot over. And Neswata has her lace
Fatawar.
gang.
Yeah.
And she has Fatawar.
Yeah, she probably paid for it.
She's rich as fuck.
Queen President paid for it. All right.
We love that about her.
Yeah,
Mommy
straight
treats
dope.
us, our sugar mommy.
That's what I'm saying. This is more of an argument for Aragon. She'll take care of him. He'll live a
Yes,
comfortable
and
life.
he needs that.
He needs someone. Yeah.
So when Saphira lands, everyone finally gets to meet Katrina, and Neswata hilariously decides, Katrina's hot, but she's not, that hot. There's a lot of much ado
There's a lot of
about,
now that we're reading this, is a lot of
hotness of women talk.
it's a lot of
Yeah, Dave. Yeah. It be like that sometimes.
interesting.
Yeah.
Am
That's
I
right.
growing as a person? Right
Yes, I'm really proud of you. Yeah. It's fun though.
Yeah, it's all good fun.
It's fun.
Yeah.
I wish you hadn't have been naked, but you can't win them all.
Yeah, it's all right.
So it is funny though, because Neswata's like, well, the tales of this daring mission to rescue Katrina are basically going to fuel the legend of her allure forever. Really, it's a section about PR.
Yeah.
But Neswata has concerns, I guess, than how hot Katrina is. And she asks Saphira where the fuck Aragon went.
Yeah.
And I love Saphira in this whole scene. She starts out by smelling the blood from Neswata's cuts and offering to dismember the person responsible. But she goes on to say that she also thought Aragon was an idiot for staying behind, but ultimately she's proud of him for doing what he believes to be right, and she knows he can take care of himself, and she'd know immediately if he'd been hurt. So she tells everyone they can chill for a bit. She's like, I'm also pissed, but
He's fine.
he's growing up, being a man. I think he's fine. And I'll know if he dies. So just all we can do is calm down.
Yeah.
And then Saphira wraps up by showing everyone the assault on Helgrind, like with her mind magic.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, she shows them the assault and the fight, culminating in the scene where they parted ways, which apparently made everyone cry. So it's looking like Saphira's first film screening is like a wild success, 100% on Metacritic. Like her directorial debut is, she's an auteur, Dane.
It probably helps that like they can feel her emotions when she's sharing it.
Yes, yeah.
Right?
I thought it was a pretty cool scene.
Yeah.
Now, upon hearing this saga, Arya asks Saphira exactly 2 follow-up questions, which you love to see.
Yeah.
She relaces her boots and she literally just runs off into the Empire to search for Aragon.
I don't know how she's gonna do that, but whatever.
Well, Niswada tries to call to her to stop her. Niswada is on the same page as you.
Yeah, she's like, "What are you doing?"
She's like, Arya,
What?
Arya.
"What? Hey!"
But she gone. It's just bonkers, dude. So we wrap up this episode's chapters with the Burden's collected leaders hoping Arya can find Aragon and get him back safely to avoid their imminent doom. And what could go wrong, really?
I don't see any problem with any of this.
No, it's
This
not
is
like
fine.
one host's favorite elf, Arya, has the capacity for failure at all. She
Well, that's why I'm saying it's fine.
yeah,
The
at
way she's
literally
written-
every turn, she
Yeah.
stays winning. She
Yeah.
don't miss.
She'll probably kill Gabatorix on this journey.
I mean, we do have a whole other book, so.
That's true.
But if not for that, I'd believe it. So with the end of our summaries there, I want to talk a little bit about the themes and ideas I saw pop up in this section.
It's time for
I
analysis.
think there are 2 main things that come up for both of our POV characters in this section, and they pretty much go hand in hand, which
Yeah.
is nice. You love to see
Wait,
it.
is this our analysis?
Yes,
All right, let's do it.
themes. The first thing is our characters retreating inward and using their mental fortitude to overcome obstacles. To me, it almost they're using an essentially like fugue-like light as a coping mechanism here. And I like the kind of myopic focus we get on our main character's internal turmoil essentially through all of this. It starts on an absolute banger.
Hell yeah.
When Aragon's hurt, tired, and reciting his call to the Razak. Before their fight, the tension is mounting. We get this quick aside that I thought was written really beautifully with really heightened language describing Aragon's thoughts, calming in, quote, a never-when in a ghastly tinted chamber that remained unchanged through an eternity of cycling words whose order and significance ceased to matter to him. So Christopher Paolini is like giving us heightened reality here as Aragon's turning inward to prepare for the obstacle ahead. So with the Razak slain, and in peak form, Kevin pushes himself past the limits of his strength to get himself and Sloane down from Hellgrind. He's again confronted with an obstacle that he needs to marshal his mental fortitude to overcome. He's on death's door, and he can't give in to the void, basically. But he's so entranced and enters the Titan feud type state, just looking as Bumblebee.
Yeah.
Like that's where his like mental fortitude is kicking in, that he's able to like get himself there essentially just by being like, wow, be pretty.
These are pretty.
Yes, but it's enough to relight the fire under his will to live.
This is his like Greta Thunberg. Is that her name? The like environmentalist. This is his like, how dare you moment. Like he's
Thunberg.
very, very inspired by the nature, around him.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, and I can see where like the scene might come off as a little like beauty of nature, but for me, it feels right in line with Aragon's character, like the stump training, his appreciation of nature.
Yeah.
And again, we're getting these like very poetic descriptions to highlight all of this. And as far as symbols go, I mean, like, what better creature could Christopher Paolini have picked for Aragon's current predicament than an insect that famously functions as a unit with its community, buzzing around on its own, and you're obviously led to believe like its ultimate goal is to find its way back. It's a perfect
that's pretty
encapsulation
good.
of like where Aragon is right now.
Nicely done.
Yes. And I'm not going to talk about internal fortitude without bringing up Niswada, the trial of the long knives. She's obviously an absolute beast throughout the
Hell
trial.
yeah,
Yes. But it's the scene immediately following that sticks out to me. People are fussing around her, like running around the pavilion.
Yeah.
And she straight up says she retreats deep into herself to cope with the pain. That's like her internal monologue throughout it. And it's really working for her. She's able to come out of this trance-like state, essentially. She kind of comes to in a condition that like would have killed most people, but she's managing the room like a boss as soon as it's over, which is wild. And like I keep mentioning with this section of chapters, the writing has this poetic and heightened and almost surrealist quality to it. I have to think it's Christopher Paolini's way of like drawing our attention to the way our characters are coping with and overcoming their trials in this hyper internalized way. So like the outside world becomes surrealist because the only reality is what you know inside, and
Deep
that's how
inside.
you're going to get yourself to do the things that gotta get done one way or another. Yeah.
These not like they're not going through the easy days. This is hard stuff.
Yeah. But the second thing I want to touch on in this episode's analysis is the idea of isolation. We see it come up with the Razak being the last of its race, with Sloane being sent into exile, with Eragon after that being on his own without Saphira or any mentors, and with Niswada bearing the burdens of this war seemingly alone, like literally on her own flesh. She's bearing the burden of leading the Varden. And never forget the creepy cursed baby being on screen. First appearance
Can't
in this
forget.
book. Yes. I feel like Elva and how uncomfortable she makes us is always a sign to be thinking about the consequences of being in isolation, being the only one of your kind.
Yeah.
And I think it makes perfect sense in a section where we have all these scenes of characters digging deep internally, both mentally and emotionally, to overcome obstacles that we're also being reminded in so many ways of what it is to be alone and be in isolation. So like you're getting these negative consequences of what it is to be alone, but then we're watching our main characters take that loneliness and find strength in it somehow, find a way to overcome what they need to
persevere through that.
Yeah, exactly.
So cool. That's a good analysis.
Thank you so much.
I like
so
that.
cheery, Dane. Are you ready for a deep dive on that
nothing gets
positive
me-
and fun note?
Nothing.
You ready to dig deep internally?
Yeah, it's time for this week's deep dive.
I could throw some more confetti. It might
Yes,
look
throw
like
more.
a bumblebee. Focus, Dane.
Like a bumblebee.
Focus.
All right, yeah. Okay, I'd like to do a deep dive on the Wandering Tribes, especially with all the amazing stuff we get here in this episode's chapters, but we never really learn much about them and certainly don't have much information on them now. We have the names of the gods, but no information about who they are and what their followers believe. We have the name of some of their cultural ceremonies, but no information about what they involve or are intended to celebrate. As far as our language, how many tribes there are, how the tribes differentiate themselves, or anything else of substance about them, I think the best I can do is say that I hope this is expanded more in future books, because they seem very cool. Potentially, probably. So, but I don't know. So I wanted to shout this out at least. And so what I can do is a quick catch up with where we are in the war.
Okay.
How's the war? Yeah, something like that.
Yes, old-timey newsreel.
Yes. Quick recap on the war. Sorry.
You're about to say the war so many times, and I
Yes.
hope it always comes out. The war.
The war against the Empire. Yeah. So the war against the Empire began approximately 3 to 5 months prior to the current place we are in this book. It kicked off when Eragon and Murtagh accidentally lured the Empire's secret Urgal army to the Varden's doorstep while trying to get away safely. This set the stage for the battle under Furthendur.
Further.
Just days later, and the battle started when Durza the Shade led his mind-controlled Urgal army through the ancient abandoned tunnels deep under Trondheim. The battle concluded when Eragon killed Durza, causing the mind control over the Urgal force to dissipate, which led with the Urgals turning on themselves and being swiftly defeated by the combined efforts of the Dwarven nation and the Varden contingent. Following this, the Varden regrouped and moved to Serda to assemble the bulk of its forces hidden among the country and join with the Serdan army before heading towards the Burning Plains. The War of the Burning Plains happened less than a week ago and is the Varden's first major open victory. This concluded when Eragon was shown mercy by Murtagh Thorn, the Empire's new dragon and rider. Dun, dun, dun.
Yes.
Yeah. The army, I believe, has not moved far from where we were last seen in that last book.
Okay.
Less than a week
So
ago.
physically in space, they're
Physically in space, they're still there.
close to the Burning Plains.
Yeah, they're close to the Burning Plains. The elves are amassing near Cianon, which is actually located by Carvajal and the other Algasia.
Oh, okay.
They're mustering in the forest of Duweldenvarden and have already killed some of the Empire soldiers that you described, trying to chop down trees to replace the siege engines
Dane,
lost.
you can't just be logging without a license.
Yeah, that's true.
There's sticklers for bureaucracy, the elves.
Okay, so That's so true. I'm sorry. I love that. They were anyway. They're logging though to replace the siege engines lost in the battles of the Burning Plains.
Still though, you gotta jump through the proper hoops.
That's true. That's true. They will attempt to take Sion as soon as the elves have gathered, which should be very soon.
Okay.
The dwarves, if you'll remember, Hrothgar, our dwarven daddy, he rests in peace, died in the Battle of the Burning Plains, and Oric has left the Varden with all of the other clans who fought in the battle to entomb Hrothgar in stone and choose a new Durmstreit in Geatum, as well as choose a new dwarven king.
Okay.
So, like, he needs a new leader of Geatum. They need a new king.
Yes.
Oric has left a small hint of Dorscrim and Geatum warriors behind to help the Varden.
Okay.
But it's much less,
That's right.
seems.
I know when they know gathering to see Saphira come back, I was like, where the fuck is Oric?
Yeah, he's gone. Yeah.
Okay.
The Urgles, most but not all the Urgle tribes have come under the banner of the cool war chief Nargashvog, and his mighty Urgle army is still with the Varden after joining forces right before the Burning Plains.
That's right. Nargashvog, the Renaissance man.
The
you mean?
Renaissance, yeah, he's the smartest guy in the book, apparently. They also have members in Nasawada's personal guard to try and help with the PR problem. So this is less than a week old. I'm just trying to frame that. This Urgle thing is very fresh. Okay. So the King Orin still has his army joined with the Varden.
Yes.
Orin is increasingly sassy to Nasawada.
Yes.
And while unwarranted generally, it's probably her fault at this minute.
Right this minute, where we are post Trial of the Long Knives.
Not looking good. The Wandering Tribes. After the Trial of the Long Knives, Nasawada is the head of all the Wandering Tribes, as well as their large amounts of money.
Yeah.
And it doesn't get her more soldiers per se, but the tribes are very rich, apparently, and more money is always good for the wall.
The wall.
Yeah. The Varden, Nasawada, as leader of the Varden, is running the war as commander-in-chief of basically everyone we've ever met, everyone enlisted.
Yes, Queen President.
Except, of course, the elves. They are across the country and special.
They have their own Queen President.
Yeah, they do. As of this section, Saphira has yet to join up with the army. Aragon is still near Helgrind. Like, she just, Saphira's just coming back.
Gotcha.
Aragon is still near Helgrind, and Oric and the dwarves have not sent word about the new king. Things are looking grim for the rebel organization, but the last-minute support of the Urgle army, the money from Nasawada's Magic Lace Gang, as well as the influx of money from the tribes, I think Nasawada is in a better position at the start of this book than she was at the last. The terrorist organization is looking good. All signs point to victory.
We love well-funded terrorists on this podcast.
So
Let the record reflect. I wish that was not a thing I said on a recording.
That is recorded. Let's loop that up, sequence it, and send it out.
Well,
Yeah.
I think though too, like morale wise,
yes,
it's going pretty, like, it's kind of in favor of the Varden right now, right?
Yes,
because
I think
they didn't lose the Battle of Farthendor. I mean, they suffered heavy losses. Ajahad died. It was tumultuous.
Yeah, it was bad. They lost a leader.
Yes.
Yeah.
But they technically win that battle.
And Shade was killed. Yeah.
Yes, they killed the Shade. And then they won the battle on the Burning Plains.
I think it's a mixed bag.
For the most part. Also, again, lost a king. I mean, they're
lost a king in both.
Yeah.
They lost the Star Sapphire, like in Trondheim, which is a really big deal to the dwarves.
And Hrothgar wanted to lay down and die when that thing broke. So
true.
Yeah.
And Murtagh and Thorn didn't get defeated. They ran away. No one knows how that worked out, but it must feel like, oh man, they're out there still. That must be freaky. So it is definitely good. All signs point to happiness for the Latin troops. Yeah.
I would just imagine, as far as a rebel insurgency.
Yeah, these are victories.
Yeah,
these are huge victories.
They're definitely going well so far.
I don't see, the thing is,
they're kind
also
of on
the
a heater.
The Urgles just came in, and I don't know how that's going. So
Okay.
I think you're right. It is good, positive. I do think this is mixed.
Listen, Dane, I'm just trying to keep a positive outlook.
Sorry, I'm being more like a hater because it's time for What Are the Haters Saying?
Actually, you should do your research, huh? Have you even read the book?
What are the haters saying?
No, there is an index in the back, right?
This is a really derivative.
Okay, this episode for the haters is getting juicy.
Oh, was it not juicy last time?
Nope.
It felt meaty. It felt thick.
Well, as promised in last episode, this time we're going to talk about the character who was written about the most online. Aragon. Yeah. Aragon has whole essays dedicated to how he's a sociopath,
Oh my God.
a psycho, and just all around evil.
Oh.
It's a lot. And to get into that, let's talk about the piece of it that comes up in this section of chapters. Sloane and the judgment we saw passed down on him by Aragon.
Okay.
The haters have several points Sloane and Aragon's situation in this chapter, and they come in three basic arguments.
3 flavors.
Yes, there's 3 of them. They build them up. First is Sloane isn't guilty of a crime. The Rozak are agents of the king in Carvajal, and siding with them isn't illegal or breaking any laws. This is often lumped in with...
I'm just...
Yeah. This
wow.
is...
Sorry, haters.
Yeah,
I don't mean to laugh at you, but...
It's fine. They deserve it a little bit. This is often lumped in with the idea that Sloane had the right in his society to force Katrina to his will, and that there is no hard evidence that he killed Bird. Yep. Second, Sloane cannot be judged by Aragon. Aragon isn't impartial. Aragon makes it personal, and Aragon has no right to pass judgment on Sloane at all.
Okay.
The third argument is Sloane may have been a dick, but his actions make sense, and he is a nuanced and interesting character, while Aragon is a power-hungry sociopath who enjoys having power over a former adversary when he should be the hero.
Okay.
Those are the three arguments.
Okay.
Let's start with the first one, because frankly, the best arguments I've seen from the haters use this one as the through line of their dislike for the whole thing.
Okay.
It's like actually, it's that one.
You didn't really break the law at all.
Yeah, exactly. So if we stick to what actually happened in Eldest, I'm coming. I'm coming.
Let's go.
Yeah, let's do it, dude. We saw the boogeyman who killed Garo come to Carvajal to abduct Roran on behalf of the genocidal king.
Yes.
And after the Imperial soldiers killed a man in Carvajal,
Yes.
and the villager retaliated with a raid, Sloane is part of the leadership group that needs to decide whether or not all of Carvajal is going to openly and violently rebel against the Empire.
That's right.
And where does Sloane fall in these negotiations? Let's look at the convo he has when Morn says, quote, "I shudder to think what those monsters would do with Roran, but what I want to know is how can we escape this predicament?" And what does Sloane say? Quote,
Tell him, Dane.
"Easy, kill the soldiers," barked Sloane. Okay, so this is my point. And instead of leaving with Katrina before things escalated and ratting out these dirty, dirty rebels, Sloane fights with the resistance before turning coat.
That's right. He and Roran fight like back to back, right?
Yes.
And Roran's like, this guy's savage.
This guy's savage. He kills guards. So this is before turning coat and murdering the village lookout when he didn't want to go into the spine. You can't sit here and say he's so patriotic and law-abiding.
Like he didn't actually break any laws, technically.
Yeah, that he didn't kill, like he killed a rebel to his king when he himself fought amongst the rebels. He'd already picked a side.
Yeah. So
the whole Sloane didn't break any laws, while technically true, I guess, from the Empire's point of view, doesn't hold up intellectually, and it isn't a good faith argument. And as far as if he killed Bird or not, this one, I think it's a stretch to say there's no proof that Sloane committed the crime. But for the sake of argument, let's break it down. Sloane was assaulted, embarrassed, publicly disowned by his daughter. He deems the spine a place his daughter will die, and he openly declares a blood feud with the man the Empire wants to capture.
Yes.
Just a few hours later.
It's a tough day for Sloane.
Yeah, a key watchman is killed from inside the village. Roran is attacked, and Sloane is seen outside the city, free and safe with the monsters who gained entry past the dead guard.
Yes.
I'm going to assume you haters know that CSI Carvajal is not a thing, but it should be.
I mean, yeah, are these people looking for they weren't able to do a DNA analysis. It's like, bitch, we don't have science.
We don't need to.
We have magic and circumstantial evidence.
You'd have to come to some odd alternatives. Like someone in Carvajal just happened to want to murder Bird or was a serial killer, and either of those people struck coincidentally the same night Sloane left freely with the Boogie Boys.
Yeah.
Or a soldier slipped into Carvajal and killed Bird with a small knife instead of their sword. An incident that had never happened before.
Yeah.
The same night that Sloane leaves freely with the Boogeyman. These are possible, again, technically, but they aren't probable. And on top of all of that, Aragon knows Sloane's true name and believes him to be a murderer and a traitor. If Aragon was so wrong about this side of Sloane's character, by the book, he could not have found Sloane's true name because he would be wildly wrong about who the man is.
Yeah.
Sloane murdered Bird, betraying his chosen side, and he is not protected by the law argument when being judged by the group he chose to side with.
Yes.
So on to the hater's second point, that Aragon is biased and has no right to place judgment on Sloane. And let's stick with the true name idea here for a second. Aragon knows Sloane to his soul.
Yeah, the core of his being.
Yeah, he is perhaps the most unbiased person, despite his feelings about Sloane, which is a level of understanding none of us will ever get the luxury to have if we're ever judged.
That's true.
If Sloane had been such a swell guy, Aragon would see that in him. He does not. So on the bias point, I say sure. But he can see the very being of Sloane, and he still passes to the judgment he does.
Yeah.
The
It's
haters,
like, yeah, maybe he's got a horse in the race because it's his family, but he knows the man.
he knows him like
More intimately than
Then-
anyone could possibly know him.
more intimately than I'll ever know my wife. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like
Wild.
he knows this guy perfectly. So
Yeah.
on the bias point, I say sure, whatever. But on the haters' other point, here is that Aragon doesn't have the right.
Yes.
And I love this whole book. This whole book is filled with lore and situations that say otherwise.
Yes.
When learning about the writers from Brom and the early parts of Aragon, we get, quote, as time passed, their worth was recognized and they were given even more authority. Before Galatorix overthrew them, the writers had more power than all of the kings in Alagasia.
But, no right to pass judgment on a man.
Also, at the end of Aragon, our boy tells King Daddy Ajahad, the writers of old were arbiters of justice above and beyond the leaders of their time. And you know what? Ajahad doesn't push back at all.
Yeah.
Finally, everyone from Nasawada to Oramus affords Aragon the respect and place of a writer, and it's pretty clear that he has the right of an ancient order in the eyes of everyone in the Rebel Alliance. But even if you don't believe that obvious stuff, Aragon is the commander of the military unit Dervengr Gata in the Vardan army. They are at war, and martial law would probably apply here.
Yeah.
And under martial law, a commander has virtually no checks on power. Sloane is a traitor to...
Uncomfortable because it's true, but
Yes, it's an uncomfortable truth. But Sloane is a traitor to a rebellion he agreed to join and participated in, and has been discovered by his former allies. Aragon has every right to judge Sloane.
yeah.
This part of the hate also encompasses the fact that Aragon never directly questions Sloane.
Okay.
But the Butcher himself makes it unnecessary when at the start of their confrontation, directly after Aragon has invaded his mind, Sloane says, quote, I don't have to explain myself to you, Aragon, son of none. Understand this, though. I did what I did for Katrina's sake and nothing else.
So they've melded memories. They've shared memories.
Yes. And
We
he
don't
responds
need
to that.
to do a serious
Nope.
interrogation. And Sloane's reply is, I did what I did.
Yes.
What you think he did, haters?
it's not a-
What do you think? What could he have done?
What is he alluding? Like, what else would he be talking about?
So stupid.
It's not a stretch at all to reason that after these two have mingled their memories,
Yeah.
like we talked about, Sloane knows what he did.
It's insane.
Aragon knows what Sloane did, guys. Sloane knows that Aragon knows what he did. We all fucking know, right?
Yes.
Anyway, and the hater's third main point is really about how Sloane is just misunderstood and given a terrible sentence. Sloane lost his wife in the spine. So it makes sense he holds Katrina tight and has a trauma response to the scary mountain no one likes.
Yes.
That makes sense.
Sure.
Also, Sloane was undermined and publicly humiliated by Roran, who was a dick.
Sure.
And yeah, Roran was a dick. But these haters almost never bring up that Roran is also going through it. He lost a father, a brother cousin, and his home. Not to mention he's being hunted by his government, by man-eating monsters, and grappling with the pain he's causing to every single person he has ever met in his life. They like to leave out these arguable, fresher and more numerous traumas because only Sloane has a reason to be a dick. And the hero stories are never supposed to be dicks.
Oh my God.
Such a fucking eye roll. And they go on to say Sloane has already been treated so horribly. He has lost his eyes and been tortured. Hasn't he suffered enough? And my answer is, that's not how justice works. Those are the direct results of Sloane's own choices with the Empire, not at all circumstances of justice. So Aragon sentenced Sloane to a pretty horrifying and dangerous walk to the Elven Lands. Fair. That's not great. But once there, he will be fed and cared for in the most peaceful, magical place in Alagasia by the most Zen yogi race that only wants to pursue art and science and nature. It def sounds better than most outcomes, including the place Aragon rescued him from. And finally, he can't see his dad ever. Well, no, not forever. Aragon has made this the best type of justice, the kind that you can free yourself from if you grow and are able to re-enter your community. If Sloane can change this way, grow as a person, and become wise enough, he gets a new name, and the elves will give him back his eyes.
Crazy, dude.
That's dope. This isn't permanent.
And he'll get to see Katrina again, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't see the horror or torture in this. It seems fair. He gets to live well in a great place, get missing body parts magically returned, and eventually end his punishment altogether. Where is he going to get such a great deal?
Yeah.
From Gal and the Boogie Boys? I mean, I don't understand.
No, he's gonna get it.
Yeah, it's wild.
Those guys.
And that's a pretty thorough rebuttal to the haters' take on Sloane stuff without making this podcast 2 hours long. I want to touch on one more thing before I wrap up, though, because it comes up a ton online for the hate. They take serious issue with Aragon's flash of enjoyment when he overpowers Sloane in this section, and it's
Okay.
often used as the smoking gun of how evil Aragon is. And I had to laugh because it's just weird reading
Yeah.
this to me. I grew up in middle school being pretty horribly physically bullied, but eventually I got bigger, and some of my bullies didn't like when the physical power roles had shifted.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed that. I didn't bask in it and then make it my goal to have like power over everyone.
Yeah.
But it was nice in that one moment when I had power over the people who had like at one point had lots of horrible
Yeah.
power over me. And I think we all experience this to some degree. It's a manager that was horrible to you that you got promoted above, or a father who you can now out debate, or the ex who now needs your help for some reason. These are normal feelings written about often that make the character relatable. This doesn't read to me like anything other than normal human emotion.
Yes, I just don't understand where people think you're going to get an interesting to read book with compelling characters if they're just purely good, always do the right thing, never have a bad thought, never struggle with anything. It's like, what if that's the kind of book you want to read, go read it, but don't shit all over this book because its characters feel human feelings. Like that just feels very confusing to me.
What book would that be? Like, I just don't, you know what I mean? Like, I just don't.
Boring one.
A boring
Dane.
book.
And I like most things, but I probably would hate that book.
It'd be boring.
Yeah.
So, and fear not, haters, I am aware, okay, at how much deeper the Aragon is an immoral, hypocritical psychopath like hate goes, and we will not be ending the season without getting into all of the rest of it. But for this episode, I had to be done with you. I'm done.
Okay.
Be gone, haters.
Be gone.
Be gone.
That's fair.
Yeah, it. I'm done.
Some of that stuff is so silly to me. I laughed at the beginning at it.
Yeah.
Just on its face.
Yeah.
And then I was like, never mind, that was rude. I'll give it a chance. But no, it's truly stupid, some of that stuff. And I think what it boils down to for me, every time you're going through this, I'm like, those are just bad faith arguments. Like these people are being intellectually dishonest and just finding reasons for something they just subjectively don't like.
They just don't like it. And
that's fine. Just don't like it and then go away.
Well, that's what I wanted to do this with this book, because like I'm fine if you don't like Aragon. If you don't like Aragon and you're listening to this, wild.
Yes.
But if you don't like Aragon, again, I get it. Like, that's fine. It's not your bag.
Yeah.
You don't like dragons, apparently, and magic. I guess that's not your thing.
Or fun.
Or
But whatever.
let's just say you don't like the writing style.
Yeah.
You don't like Christopher Paolini's voice, or you don't like the characterization of Aragon. That is fine. But these arguments about how
It's objectively bad.
yeah, I just don't get it. So that I'm glad we're doing this. Like, I love doing it. I also, though, sometimes I'm like, gosh, guys, like, what are we doing?
Come on.
There are many. It's wild. There are like so many essays.
We don't
and-
have any hard evidence that Sloane killed Burr.
yeah, it's
Like,
wild.
dude, what? Do you want the whole police procedural on it? Like, what?
This is implied. I feel like what?
Yeah, truly, deeply insane to me.
Yeah.
But, you know, they're haters. That's
Yeah.
just
But also, we got
what they
revenge,
do.
which was dope.
We did get
so-
revenge.
which was pretty great. We get to
never
wear
forget
hats. We have
justice
confetti.
for revenge. Oh, I forgot I was wearing this hat.
Yeah. How's
Love
it look?
it.
Do I look good in this hat? I would take that. Yes, I look great.
Yes.
I love it.
I am speechless because of how good you look.
Yes, the pause was to really take it all in. I get it.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
that's correct. I don't need to ask because I'm sure I look like a fucking goof, but
Well,
you'll have
I
to watch
mean-
on YouTube to find out.
I mean, as opposed to
Normally, when I look like
Oh.
a serious fantasy book podcaster.
yes, yes.
Just a
All of
walking
those.
paradox.
Yeah. Well, I think that wraps it up for us this
I
week.
think so. How are you feeling about these first two sections of Brisingr?
I like it. I like all the stuff that's being introduced. I like the timeline. It feels the world's feeling bigger to me here. It feels like,
Yes.
especially since we just dropped this revenge plot, which I very much enjoyed. But it feels like now we can expand to other things. There's other
Yes.
things going on.
I think we talked about it a little bit last time too. I think the like high octane action start of this book and then kind of diving straight from there into like the grit essentially of the war and
Yeah.
like
The wall.
the wall and the Rebel Alliance
Yeah.
and all of that going on. I think just as a whole, it feels much more mature, much more like it's heading to like a concrete ending. If that makes sense, it's less like, well, we're training and it's magical and the elves and the,
Yeah, we were
it's like
talking about-
we saw the elves, but they're covered in blood.
Yeah,
they're
they're on the move. Well, yeah, like the elves are moving. It sounds like the dwarfs are probably gonna have a king here soon. Like Nasawada is consolidating power. Like
Yes.
it does feel like things are moving in a way.
We're girding our loins.
Yeah, and Aragon's alone like feels good. It feels good. It's like I'm glad he's alone.
Yeah.
And then he was a badass in this section.
Yes.
I want more of
get
that.
him.
Yeah.
Kill him, Kevin.
Yeah. Get him, Kevin. Whoa, Kevin, don't get up. Not you,
no,
Kevin.
we didn't mean you.
Don't kill us, Kevin. All right. Woo. All right. Well, thank you for listening. Well, we got to get out of here. Thank you for listening. Make sure to rate and review, especially on Apple Podcasts, support on Patreon, and check out our social media at Is This Just Fantasy Pod on TikTok or at Just Fantasy Pod on Instagram. If you have any questions or just want to write us about the podcast, we would love to hear from you. You haters can write your emails, and you can email us at isthisjustfantasypod@gmail.com.
Yes, and if you want to keep pace and read along with us, on the next episode, we're going to be covering Chapter 9, Escape and Evasion, through Chapter 13, Shadows of the Past.
I love Shadows of the Past. Shadows of the Past.
Do you love Shadows of the
I
Past?
feel like it's
Nerds and we love our fantasy. Come on and listen to us next time. Find out what our deep dive will be. Thanks for catching our show.
We are gathered here today to mourn the loss of the Razak, also known as the Boogie Boys.
Genocide.
It has been a hard.
Just kidding! Yes.
Revenge!
We did it!
We did it! We're not sorry!
We've never been sorry!
You don't get a freaking funeral. Get out of here!
We got revenge! Dane can finally sleep. It's been months.
Can't wait.
Way to crush him, Aragon.
Yeah.
We're proud of you, bud. You finally did it.
It was
You
great.
put your mind to it. You persevered. And now, Garrow, rest easy.
Yes, Brom can rest easy.
Quimby's niblets have justice.
We can finally put those in the oven. Wait, no.
No,
That's not what I
no.
meant. We can finally
Do
put...
we have to kill you too? I will shoot this confetti cannon at you, sir.
No, revenge is over.
Revenge!
Thank you. Thank you.
Back to seriousness. Dane, this is goofy. What
yeah.
are you doing?
All right, let's get out of here.